incredible what can happen when a promo thing reels. Because there we go. For whatever reason, he pressed go, and the Miracast thing just shut off. So it was
technology. It's what we've chosen to build our lives around.
Technology is great for when you want to contemplate all your choices in life.
How you doing?
Yeah. Anyways, folks. Oh, God. Folks, today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry. Protect all your data by backing up your home or business to your own self-storage or any other cloud like Azure or S3. Check them out today at cloudberrylab.com/FRD. That's for First Ring Daily. And Paul, I feel like I haven't seen you in
37 minutes.
hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How you been? Anything new?
You know, I survived the plane ride home. I slept very weird hours yesterday, many of them consecutive, some not.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yep. But, God, man. There are still people in Las Vegas this morning at CES right now, and there's a real strong pit in my stomach that says, you know what, I don't think I could handle that.
I think I slept 37 minutes on the plane and then drove home delirious. Drove by my exit, like I told you, which on this highway means I have to wait 15 minutes before I can get off again or whatever. So yeah, it was nice coming home.
Yeah, but that's enough travel talk, because thinking about airplanes is not something I really want to be doing right now. But for those that are curious, because I got asked many times when it was going to be up, the behind the scenes video is now live on Thurrott.com, and you can go watch out Paul. Basically the after effects of Paul sitting at a bar for 4 hours. And
I can't explain that day because, I think it was a combination of not wanting to be in Vegas and having a weird amount of time on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And the day got away from me.
It was fine. It worked out well. Yeah. You met the bartender. You guys quite literally exchanged phone numbers. They were texting the whole time.
True. I did help him find a place in Vegas to go. That was fun.
But moving on with life, before actually we do that, that's a total straight lie. You got any final thoughts about the debauchery that happened in
Vegas?
In Las Vegas. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the Google Assistant, personal digital assistant thing was the theme this year. This questions, did Google win CES, whatever that means. I mean, they certainly had the biggest presence in a way without having a booth, which is kind of the new way to do, CES. But then again, they had a lot to catch up to because Alexa and Amazon have already been kind of established in this space. So I think we're seeing what that 2-horse race looks like. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like Microsoft had a bit more of a presence this year, if that makes any sense, than they have in a while. A lot of people who follow Microsoft today may not remember or realize that they used to do a CES keynote. They had a humongous booth for many years, and then they kind of scaled back. And the story has been like Microsoft's not at CES anymore, and that's never been true. They've always been at CES, but it's always been kind of a backroom thing. But they had a little bit of a presence over there in the Sands, like they did last year, and they do a device showcase thing, which is kind of cool, and kind of show off what's going on in the PC ecosystem. I thought that stuff was pretty cool. We got to see that Cortana thermostat. Yep. I don't know why I keep doing that.
Right behind
which I think we both agree was really nice looking.
Mm-hmm.
Cool new PCs and stuff. We did not look at a lot of TVs. I thought that was smart. Didn't get rained on inside the building too much. That was also good.
Keyword being much. It was definitely dripping in the Las Vegas
get dripped on.
Center.
Yep. And I'm not just talking about Jordan. But
I
don't know if
nobody's going to get that joke, but maybe me, you, and Dan Lycock. But
yep. Sometimes I just throw those out there. But I don't know. I mean, I'm glad it's over, and I think this is going to be an interesting year for the PC, and I think we saw a lot of the reason why at the show, and also for the whole, the smart home stuff.
Yeah, I can tell you, Paul, actually, definitively who won CES this
Oh,
year.
okay.
Definitively, it's Qualcomm. They won. Like it doesn't matter. They're in everything now.
Yeah, that's true. That's you're right. And our buddy there from Qualcomm, Mr. McGuire, was up on stage, like we said, at the Lenovo event for the entire thing. That was really funny because they brought in guys from Google and they went off. They brought in guys from Microsoft, they went off. But the one guy who stayed on the stage the whole time was the guy from Qualcomm. And like because like you said, their stuff is literally in everything. This year it's going to be in PCs, but it's they have this kind of not just the smartphone mobile platform, but also basically an IoT platform. And when you see a lot of Google IoT stuff, you'll see it with Windows 10 IoT as well. It's running on Qualcomm. Surprise! Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Other things that are somewhat interesting, Paul, and by interesting, I also mean deceptively hilarious, is so when all this meltdown stuff came out, there was one company, and I'll call them out by name, AMD, because they're the only other ones it could be besides Intel. They just sat back and put their feet up on the desk and said, "Our stuff's not vulnerable to meltdown. We're in the clear. You should go buy AMD." Their stock jumped up a whole bunch, and
Yeah. Yep. And that worked out great for those guys, right?
yeah, it's because how'd that work out for them, Paul?
So I alluded to this in something I wrote today, but I think it was during CS, and I think you were there. Somebody tipped us off that AMD is going to have a little problem, and they'll be divulging that this week probably. And I thought that was kind of interesting because when I look back to last week, AMD's reaction to this really stuck out in my head, and I thought to myself, you know what? Even if it's 100% true that AMD's processors are not impacted by this industry-wide problem, it is just the wrong thing to do to take the stance that they took. That they did that, and then in fact are impacted by one of the two major vulnerabilities and by two of the three exploits that we know about, or the exploit variants that we know about, kind of makes it even worse. And as I wrote today, as an end user, if you have an AMD processor in your PC, the process for getting that thing fixed is exactly the same as it is on Intel, which means you're going to get things from Microsoft, which are OS updates that will partially mitigate some of the effects of this stuff. And then you're going to get firmware updates through your PC maker, some of which originated at Intel because of the chipsets that are, AMD, because of the chipsets that are inside of the PC. But those things are delivered to the end user through whatever software updating mechanism that, HP, Lenovo, Dell, whoever you have, uses. So much for being invulnerable.
Yep. Yeah. And it was just it was funny in a sad way because it's when another company has a security related problem, you don't really attack them. Or
you don't dance.
It's just right, because security is not. I mean, it'd be one thing like if they were shipping chips that had blue paint instead of red or something. But this is something that actually can result in some serious issues. But anyway, so yeah, if you're on AMD, you're not really immune. It's the Spectre variant of not specifically meltdown, but it's all in the same family. All in the same family. Switching gears here for a second, Paul. Paul, did you know that I like to tinker with PCs? Did you ever hear me talk about that before?
To my understanding, not to too much success, but yes, I understand that you do like to screw around with the internals of a computer.
Yeah, that second.
I mean, maybe I'm missing part of it.
That second comment aside, do you know what this is?
No.
So to take a step, exactly. To take a step back, Paul last week before we went to CES, he shipped me a high-end rig that he had, and it's made by HP. It's an Omen PC. You might even know this.
Sorry. Do you mean to tell me that this perfectly working silent computer that came out of inside of it? Are you some kind of a mad doctor? Are you insane? Like why on earth would you have already destroyed it?
I didn't destroy it. I was getting to a nice compliment, but per usual, you had to knock me down. But I was real curious because this is a very high end rig. It had a couple GTX 1080s in it, and one of the problems with shipping high end computers is that the graphics cards are very large and they're also pretty top heavy, and the PCIe Express ports are actually pretty flimsy comparative to what they need to be. So I'm actually very impressed with HP on this one. Usually, I don't review many HP desktop rigs, but this bracket has 5 screws, and this is not on the side that connects to where like you plug in the ports. This is inside, all
Right, the
inside
other
the
side.
machine.
In other words, yeah,
Yeah,
keep it on there. Yeah.
and this is not plastic either. I mean, this is some sort of metal. I don't think it's aluminum, but it feels like steel. And there are 5 screws that mount this thing to firmly lock in each GPU. Like I'm really impressed with actually how solid the machine is on the inside.
I just ask you an obvious question? I agree that this thing you're showing is impressive, and that obviously what it does is it holds those 2 video cards in perfectly.
No, hold on. It's one. Each video card has one of these. Each one.
Okay.
Like it's
even more impressive. Okay. But my question is, why isn't it in the computer?
I mean, well, I couldn't do this on the podcast if I would have just let things be. I can tell you, I did get.
I mean, you know this. You know from experience that now that you have screwed with this thing, it's never going to work again. That this was a finely oiled machine. It's like you bought a new like $50,000 BMW and then put those lifters on it so the car could kind of go up and down for some reason.
I will have you know the machine is working just fine right now. I'm looking at it running. All the LEDs are on. I mean, there were no. Oh, this is just a metal bracket that bolts to the frame. Now, granted, if I was ever going to move this thing, which it's probably going to be in its permanent home until either my house burns down, or we put the addition that will go on behind here and I drag it over there. The thing's never going to move, so it's not a big loss. I was just impressed, Paul, that this machine had something this robust inside of it to make sure that it shipped correctly.
It's really well done. And you had gotten that, whatever the thing was called, the AMD system earlier this year. And like last year I built a gaming PC with my son, and it looks like somebody took a bunch of components and threw them up in the air and they landed inside the box. That's what what my PC looks like. But the HP thing is it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Miracast, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I don't know. It was just good job, HP. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking about buying a gaming rig from them, if the fact that they're putting this type of machined material in there, it's they're not cutting too many corners. So if any, to be honest. Speaking of cutting corners, actually, I just heard one running around upstairs. Paul, did you know that it's about to snow and ice storm all over again my house?
Yeah, so I'll probably be getting this a day later, meaning tomorrow. We actually have the windows open today. It's 50-something degrees outside. It's raining, but it's like really nice and warm. And I literally, this is like one of those beautiful coincidences in life. I'm literally just standing there by the front door, and with the thing slid down, so I can feel like warm air blowing from the outside. It's something I haven't felt in probably a month or more, over a month, definitely. Anyway. Just at that moment, my phone buzzes in my hand, and I pick it up, and it says "Winter Weather Advisory." Seriously.
The only reason I say that is that there's a 4-year-old running around upstairs, and if I told her that I was on a podcast, and she goes, "Okay, I won't come downstairs," which definitively means she's going to come down at some point. It's just whether or not we're still on the stream.
And she's going to say something like, "I can't get the water to stop."
Yeah. Actually, I'd be more alarmed if she wouldn't tell me that, and she just.
Yeah, there she is.
Here she comes.
I washed my toys. That kind of thing.
Well, she's now coming down. What are you done with? Okay, so you're done with lunch. Now what?
Is there any evidence in that room that you're recording a podcast? Oh, right. The
like she's yelling downstairs that she's done with lunch, and I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Are you doing the dishes? What's the plan up there? But anyways, getting on to something a little bit slightly more important. I think we all know where this is going. Whoops, not there, not the Cortana thing. Today's show, folks, is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Ransomware been pretty much a big deal for all of last year. It actually took a big chunk of the market last year because Bitcoin became a real cool way to pay for that to not get caught. And so keep yourself kind of ransomware protected. I mean, everybody is obviously concerned about this, but storing your content somewhere it's either got to go all Azure, all AWS, but Cloudberry Lab, they've actually got a different solution that allows you to back up all your content to wherever you want, any sort of cloud storage provider, and it protects you from ransomware. And that's basically what they do in a nutshell. They do it a little bit better than everybody else, and that flexibility is kind of the key component there. Put it wherever you want, get it whenever you want, and save it however you want. And it's all protected from ransomware. You can go check them out, cloudberrylab.com/FRD to learn more. And you definitely should, because it's a neat, unique little proposition where most people are just kind of tied to, it's like, oh, well, we're all Azure. But that's not actually, the more I talk to people, the more I learn that not everybody is all AWS or all Azure. They're typically in both places. And so being to have that flexibility is always nice. Speaking of not nice, Paul Thurrott, everybody. He's
I just sent you a computer. Could that buy me 30 seconds? I mean, what do we get here for that?
I think it was pretty cordial to you, maybe some in Vegas, maybe. I don't know.
Sure.
There was counting it all back, we had about 8 hours of footage. A lot of it was just kind of useless, us just walking around doing nothing. But
yep.
cut our lives down to 10 minutes, and it looks like we had the greatest time of our life. My wife's like, I don't understand why you don't like it so much. You guys look like you're having so much fun. I'm like,
yeah. Well, I mean, we enjoy hanging out and everything, but the Vegas one's weird. I think I said this on a podcast. I somehow communicated this past week, but it's like I'm trying to convince myself. There are great restaurants here. There are awesome shows, none of which we went to. There's there's stuff to do. It's not a horrible place, and yet it is the most horrible place on earth as well. And it makes it kind of, it's difficult. And I don't know. Even the airport's terrible. Just the slot machines and I hate all that stuff. But I think the stressing over the red-eye flight doesn't help. You know that you've got this thing looming over you when you're going home. I wish I could handle it a little better, to be honest. Because I really do feel like you could have a good time there. I mean, if and I don't mean, obviously people do. That's why it exists. But if you're not into gambling or whatever, there are some legit, I think, good things there for people as well. But it's just hard to avoid the stuff that is also legit terrible. So
actually,
I don't know.
I don't know why. Well, I know why I just thought of this, but when we got on the plane to go home, which is a red eye, folks, I left there at like 10:15 p.m. or something like that's when our flight took off. And there were storms, like there was kind of like a cold, actually it's probably what's hitting my house right now, somewhere over like obviously the northern half of the country, all the way down to like Colorado or something like that. And for one, I hate turbulence with a passion. I just don't deal with turbulence well, like an irrational human being, because I know it's the safest way to travel. But anyways, the pilot gets on and he goes, well, we're in a lucky city. We're going to try our lucky flight path and go over Texas to try to avoid the turbulence. And to be honest, they did. Like we just kind of flew under it. Like we went way down and we were clipping across North Texas and then hooked up. And it was good.
I mean, I don't, nobody likes turbulence. I mean, obviously, but
yeah.
I don't worry about it like you do. And for people who are watching and listening to this, just to be clear, because Blair tweeted something about this the other day. Brad literally spends 50% of his day staring at a screen that is a satellite image of weather.
I like weather.
Yep. No, it's fine. I'm not belittling you for this. But it's interesting. I mean,
yep.
You really, yeah. It's, those kind of blocky green things that represent the clouds. That's a lot of what he looks at. And I don't really look over his shoulder to see exactly what he's doing, but I would imagine it's either the weather where we are, the weather where he lives, or the weather in between, because he's worried about that turbulence on the way home, or some combination of all three.
Well, as somebody just pointed out, Amund in the chat room, I am very much a weather nerd. Like even right now, I'm looking at my computer and there's a weather radar pattern that shows the jet stream and the high and low pressure. Like I look at it, one, because I hate flying through it, but two, I generally, if I was prettier, I would have been a weather person. But instead, I do tech podcasts. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with like barometers in my bedroom, and my dad bought me all this stuff to like monitor things outside. And like, you know how you like
Wow.
trains, Paul? Mine would be
Okay.
like
Yeah.
weather would be like my thing. That's why I look at the radar all the time. I have a genuine interest about just weather patterns and whether or not I'm going to die in a plane.
All right, but to put this in perspective, if there was a train in the area, I will go over and look it out. Much in the way that if you stepped outside, you could say, well, if there was weather in the area, I would go check it out. But you are literally proactively enjoying this when you can't see the weather.
Yeah.
So, it's fair to say that I do have a deep love of trains, but it might be fair to say that you are obsessed by the weather. That's all. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just,
I have a
it's
lot to
important
talk
that we
about
have
with my
options.
therapist. Anyways, moving on to things that are remotely related. Actually, but there is a lot of weather in PUBG, which now has over 3 million players on Xbox One. I am very curious to see how well that game is. It got another update. It's getting much better than the launch version. It's probably getting close to the point where, like, if you're okay with beta software, now might be a time to buy. They pushed out another update when we were in Vegas last week. I need to fire it up and see how it's performing. But yeah, over 3 million people playing that now on the Xbox alone.
Yeah, and which is impressive because I don't think it was too well regarded on the Xbox when it launched.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's in some kind of an early, release preview state or whatever, but I think PUBG is basically in that state regardless. I don't know. My only issue with this game is the lack of kind of diversity. Like, I'm worried about, like, the thing I like about Call of Duty is I can get in and out, and there are different game types, and you can do whatever, many different maps. Mm-hmm. And what is that sound? Do you hear that? The hissing sound? It sounds like weather, Brad. Do you hear it?
I share one thing that I like, and you're gonna ruin it forever.
I'm serious. No. It sounded like a special effect from like a hurricane or something. No. Okay. No. Now you're just messing with me.
That's the.
Oh, it stopped.
I do hear it actually.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. Anyways. So yeah. Well, so your problem with diversity in the game, which I totally understand. The problem, the good and bad thing is that you can change that aspect if you want. For example, if you play the original map, and I can't remember the name of it, but if you land at the school, every single time there's 50 plus people landing at the school, and those matches last 5 minutes. Or you can not land at the school and you can make it last 35 minutes. It really is just kind of the problem with it, though. The problem with it is,
tree.
Yeah, exactly. If you hide behind a tree for 20 minutes, you can make the game last forever. The problem with it is you don't learn that. You don't learn how to make games quick or long until you've played it for 10 hours. So it takes some time, but it's fun.
I'll try it. So, I will try it.
You should. It's fun. It takes a little time, but it's fun. Actually, I've played games like Dark Souls and all that kind of stuff. I have never jumped more than I have when playing PUBG. Because what happens is like, okay, so you land and you survive and you get 2 kills or whatever, and then it's like 15 minutes in, and so you're trying to like run and creep. Yeah, like you're sitting around, you're like, there's only 25 people left, and you're like hyper like aware, and then you're running, and then you just get shot 3 times, and you're just like, Yep. Anyways, I'm sure that was a great reaction. Anyways, other things, Paul. This came out late last night. I was in bed watching, what was it? The latest of the Grand Tour, which was another great episode last night. If anybody watched it, Windows 10 build 17.074 shipped. Not a whole lot new in it, to be honest. Surprisingly, Edge got a ton of updates. There's a revamped book reading experiences for all those people reading novels in Edge. You can finally autofill credit card information on websites. You can use extensions and that kind of stuff in private mode. And there's updates to quiet hours, and the settings have been refined a little bit. We're definitely on that tail end of major features rolling out.
I would say, there's a lot of small things in this release, and it's funny because one of the things they fixed in Edge is one of the probably have a list of about 25 things, and most of them are so small I don't really bother complaining about them publicly that much. I tend to focus on the big stuff. But one of the little things that's always bothered me about Edge, because I use the bookmarks bar for my bookmarks, and regardless of the browser. And in other browsers, you can have, if you think about it, there are little icons for each site, and then you might have a folder, and that folder might have icons in it for sites, and then you can edit the description so that the icon reads as whatever name you want. So if you have like our site probably has some huge name in the tab, but you just want the thing to say Thurrott.com or whatever. You can edit it down, but you can also just say, I don't want a name, a label or whatever. I just want the icon. You could never do that in Edge on an icon by icon basis. You could only do it for all icons or for none. And it was like, guys, seriously, like this is the most basic feature. Well, they're adding that in Edge for this release. So it's in this build. And I know it's not a world-beating feature. It's not we render the web faster. We have better battery life. It's not like a big bucket thing. It's not even like one of the reading stuff you were talking about, which looks great. But it's like one of those little things, and those are the little things that I think add up that make Edge kind of unusable for many people. So it's nice to see them kind of chipping away at that type of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, that's every time we try to use Edge, though, that's exactly it's the little things that keep that browser from becoming, I don't want to say mainstream, that's probably inappropriate, but widely or more widely used than it is now. So they got to start that real tiny polish, because that is, I'm listening to what's going on upstairs. And
and you're understandably worried.
Let me just put it this way.
I didn't get to tell you this. So I'm sorry. Right before the podcast started, I had to delay for 5 minutes. And the reason why is because there was an explosion of sound. And that sound was my dog attacking my cat, which is what I thought was happening. So the way this has worked so far is that like one of the cats has gotten very brave and comes downstairs. We have a gate on the stairs. The cats are upstairs, the dog's downstairs. Dog desperately wants to play with the cats. The cats are scared to death of the dog because the dog's just exuberant and happy and just it wants to play. My belief is that it does not want to murder the cats, but one of the cats will sneak around the house while the dog's sleeping, and she'll even walk right up to the dog. It's kind of stupid what she's doing, but I guess the cat had come downstairs, so I only caught the tail end of this. Pardon the pun. And there was a great scrambling and barking and hissing, which has not happened yet. And what had happened, I later figured out, because the floor was all wet because it's raining today. The dog had gone for a walk. The floor soaking wet. The cat ran for the stairs and couldn't get there because the floor was slippery. So there was like a mad scramble in a circle. I actually thought the dog had gotten the cat because it looked from the angle like the cat had spun around. And I thought to myself, my God, we're going to have a mauled animal. And I went upstairs and I dug the cat out from under the bed, and she was wet. So you got to imagine pulling her out in the dark, wet. I was thinking, oh my God, she's bleeding. But she was just wet because the floor was wet. She was fine. But it was the most awful moment of what is happening.
What just happened. Yeah. Yeah, so my daughter's doing that upstairs right now, but I'm going to go with she's not putting her toys away and instead is holding them above her head and slamming them onto the ground. That would be...
It's kind of a passive-aggressive, Daddy said I couldn't interrupt the podcast, but here's something I can do.
Let me slam this down on the wood floor.
Yep. I'm not interrupting your podcast.
Yeah. I'm not touching him. I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. Anyways. It is Friday, folks, and besides being extremely casual, more so than usual today, I think Paul and I are just still on the detox of our Western travels. But we do take a look back at the comments that happened this week. And on Paul's post that he wrote about Microsoft needing to open up AI or the Cortana platform to be swapped out like you can on Google, where you can change the assistant to being allowing Siri, or well, you can't allow Siri, but Cortana for that matter. Jacob writes, he says, I like this idea, but I really have a hard time believing Microsoft would go for it. I think they'll go down kicking and screaming with Cortana. It's kind of the next big thing, and considering how badly Microsoft missed out on smartphones, I think they're likely to force Cortana on users far longer than it is appropriate.
Yeah. What I like about this comment is that he's not saying something like, well, I don't want that, or I think Microsoft should push Cortana. What he's saying is, I think the way Microsoft is they're going to push Cortana. So that's actually a fair statement. But I think I could have made an even better case for this action, meaning that you could go into Windows 10 and define your own default assistant
Hmm.
I think there's even a better case to be made for this than when I wrote it. And you really have to look at Microsoft's kind of history of partnering with companies that it's competitive with. There were legal issues around antitrust and even before antitrust, like when they allowed AOL and CompuServe and other online services to be on the desktop and the start screen, the start menu of Windows 95, or the browser ballot stuff from Europe which was from the European antitrust case, whatever. But the bigger thing here to me is the way that Microsoft makes these decisions, and it's that kind of it's that really hard decision, because you've got two things that could happen, and either one of them is going to harm something, and so you got to figure out, well, what's more important. And honestly, the reason I wrote this is I don't think Cortana is all that important. If you assume that Cortana, when I say that word Cortana, that word just means the front end to those back end services. I think Microsoft's back end services, Office 365, Azure, the Microsoft Graph, whatever, is what's important here. If they can open that stuff up to Amazon's assistant or Google's or even Apple's, whatever, all of them, and then you interact with the assistant or maybe a set of assistants that you care to use, I don't think that harms Microsoft in the slightest. The problem with Cortana is that it's only deeply integrated with Windows 10. That's it. You can't do much with it on iOS unless you're running the app. You can do more with it on Android, but it's not the full experience. I think I had this in the article, but there's some neat things you can do on Windows 10 PCs with Cortana, like run the app under the lock screen, or on the lock screen, I should say. Run the app while the laptop lid is closed. That is not available to that new Alexa app that's coming this year. But now I know it's 4 of the top 5, not 3, but 4 of the top 5 PC makers are going to put that app on their computers this year, and that's all you need to know. So, Microsoft may continue to push this thing for all of 2018. I think that's probably a safe bet. But this game is already over. It's over. Doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah. So, Paul, speaking of the game is already over, I wanted to give you an update on the weather here.
That's amazing. And there's the green cloud thing I was talking about.
Yeah. So, actually, this is interesting because they were claiming that we're supposed to get a whole bunch of snow. You can see this nice band that's pushing through right here. I am somewhere not directly in that band, but as it slides over, it's going in a northeasterly direction, and that is supposedly what's going to be dumping all the snow on the ground. But on the more interesting note, my sister-in-law and their family are where they were in Disney World, whatever the one in Florida is, and so they're supposed to be flying all across this. And I can only imagine that they are just going to have a buttery smooth flight on the way home.
Well, they'll probably go around it.
Yeah.
So where's Philadelphia on this map? We can't even see it because of all the crap.
Yeah, you're somewhere over right about there.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
New York,
so it is
right
raining now. That must be rain.
Yep.
If that's live or whatever.
Or current. For all the people there watching this in the eastern half of the United States, there you go. Keeping you abreast of the weather, because that is what I do.
That's our new segment.
What's the weather weekend? Let's start doing
throwback weather of the week.
Anyways, on Paul's post about Intel vulnerability playing in the hands of Microsoft, Matt Hewitt writes, he says, I still don't think this will result in consumers upgrading their OS from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or buy a new Windows 10 PC. They will just suffer through the performance hit without realizing it, or when they do, they will blame Windows for being slow and move to a Chromebook or iPad.
Yeah, I mean, this is with regards to my article about this set of Intel vulnerabilities playing into Microsoft hands with regards to Windows 10. And that what I meant by that was, in part, the Windows as a service stuff and Microsoft wanting to get everyone on the latest Windows version. I mean, I think one of the more interesting things that came out of the Microsoft disclosure this week is that they support 45 different editions of Windows. Yeah. And that means everything from Windows 7 Home Basic and Home Premium to Windows 10 Pro and Enterprise and whatever else. There's a bunch of them. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say to this is that people have been holding on to Windows PCs for a long time. This is going to get a lot of mass coverage. And there are going to be normal people who just watch the news and they hear, hey, you might want to get rid of that computer and buy a new one, because you won't notice the after effects of the fixes on these newer computers. He's right. It could be a Chromebook or an iPad, whatever they move to. But More likely a Chromebook, by the way. I mean, I think the point of the computer these days is that it's more of a specialty device, and it's for, focused productivity tasks, keyboard, mouse, big screen. Chromebook could do that, sure. But I don't know. There's still kind of a built-in audience of people who grew up on Windows and are used to Windows, and as people get older, especially, they're not necessarily interested in changing to something new. I mean, a Chromebook is the type of thing you would buy for a kid, either because you had to for school, because you wanted to, because you knew they couldn't get in too much trouble with it. Whereas this is interesting. It just falls at an interesting point. Microsoft has been making the security case for Windows 10. This thing happens, and they're like, look, see, you guys all complained when we said we were only going to support Windows 10 on the latest silicon. Well, look what's happening. Windows 10 on the latest silicon is, in fact, the best experience for security. So it may trigger a little bit of an upgrade cycle that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise at this time. And I think that was my point, really, that
sure.
Yeah, some people may go Chromebook or even iPad or whatever, but this may trigger some upgrade purchases that I don't think were going to happen in 2018 otherwise. So it's a making lemonade kind of thing. It would have been better for everyone if this had never happened, but the little silver lining here is this possibility exists.
Yep. And I tend to agree. You got anything else for What's Your Weather Friday?
No, what I'd like to do right now is take a 3-hour nap, but as you know, that probably can't happen.
It could, but I mean, there's whatever stuff going on in life. I mean, there's weather to be documented, Paul. Actually, my kid is just staring outside waiting because she's wanted to build a snowman for at least 2 years, which is roughly half of her life. And she's yet to be able to do it. We didn't get enough snow last year. So,
you think you're going to get that much snow?
We're supposed to get over 4 inches. At least that's what they're saying. Which that might be enough to build a small snowman.
Yeah, I would. It only has to be small. She's a small child. Now you're making me nervous about this. I didn't even look.
Oh, well, riddle me this, Batman. Now that I bring up such things because I watch it so closely, somebody has a keen interest on what's happening in the near future.
It's like that thing we were talking about, the Major League thing, like where the voodoo guy starts genuflecting, and it's like, oh yeah, now you come around, like something bad is happening. Yes, it's fair to say that my sudden interest in the weather is of a selfish nature.
Hold on. We should record this when we get the live reaction that you're going to get a foot of snow.
Yeah, so this has happened to me before. I start typing in Emmaus, and if I just hit enter, the one that it selects is Emmaus, Illinois, which is 21 degrees and snowing. Or, oh, wait, it might be Emmaus, IL, maybe that's somewhere else. Anyway, it's 62 degrees here, by the way. That's incredible. 5-day forecast. Let's see. I think we're going to be all right.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we're okay. It's going to be colder. It's actually going to go down to 24 by Sunday, but we are not going to get snow. Thank God.
Gotcha. Alrighty then. Well, we will wrap it up here, folks. Today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry, the cloud backup that lets you use your own cloud storage like Microsoft, AWS, Google Cloud, and many others. Protect your most important and business and personal data. Visit cloudberrylab.com/FRD or click the link below and the little icon, and that will take you there. But we will be back here on Monday because we are not traveling, which is the best news I've heard all day. And have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you right back here next time on First Ring Daily.